Believe it or not, this really happened. Even now, when I think back to those days, my chest tightens like it all just happened yesterday. My name is Michael. I'm 33 years old, a software engineer, and for the most part, I live a quiet life. I've never been the type who loves wild parties or big crowds. Give me a book, a quiet evening, or a walk through the park, and I'm happy. I've always thought of myself as someone who enjoys the simple things. And I also believe that love was about sharing your space, your resources, your time, your life. So when my girlfriend Mia moved in with me 8 months ago, I thought it was a big step forward for us. The house wasn't mine, I was renting it. But still, it was my safe place. My little world. I decorated it the way I liked, kept it neat, quiet, comfortable. When May came in, she didn't just move her things in, she moved in her world too. At first, I didn't mind. Love means compromise, right? Or at least that's what I thought. May is 29. She works as a makeup artist, but her real passion is social media. Instagram was her stage, and she thrived on likes and comments. She loved being the center of attention. If I enjoyed peace and quiet, she craved noise, laughter, drama, and crowds. And she had her 3 closest friends always orbiting her: Sarah, the one who never stopped commenting on everything; Rachel, who lived for parties; and Callie, the sharp-tongued one who could turn anything into sarcasm. I called them the Sirens. Their laughter was always loud, sometimes shrill, and whenever they showed up, me seemed to get pulled into their orbit, like I wasn't even there. At first, I tolerated it. I even laughed about it. But as time went on, I realized me was acting like the house wasn't mine anymore, like it was hers. She even ordered a little nameplate for the front door that said the Johnsons, my last name. She screwed it right into the wood. The irony? We weren't married. Still, I stayed quiet. I got used to her endless online shopping deliveries, her cosmetics that filled the bathroom, the random late-night visits from her friends. I told myself it was all part of living together. Until one Friday night. I was making dinner, just pasta with tomato sauce, and the smell of garlic filled the kitchen. I was expecting to come night in. Then the door slammed, and me came striding in, already dressed in a sparkling dress, phone pressed to her ear. Her friends' voices blasted through the speaker so loud it felt like they were all standing right there in my kitchen. She laughed. "Oh my God, girls, of course I'm going. This weekend is exactly what I need. No, not with him, he doesn't even know, haha." And as she said it, she looked me right in the eye. I froze, spoon in hand. "Where are you going?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Me rolled her eyes like I had just asked the dumbest question on earth. Through the phone, Sarah chimed in mockingly, Michael's jealous." Me pulled the phone away from her mouth, looked straight at me, and said loudly, "Seriously, Michael, you think you can tell me where I can or can't go? Stop acting like we're married. You don't get a say in what I do." Her words hit me like a slap. And then came the laughter, her friends cackling through the phone, as if my entire life had become a joke for their entertainment. Me smirked, so sure of herself, so smug. I stood there, wooden spoon in hand, sauce dripping onto the stove, and I felt something inside me loosen. Like a knot I'd been carrying for months had just untied itself. And instead of exploding, instead of yelling, I smiled. "You're right, Mia. Absolutely right," I said quietly. She huffed, patted me on the shoulder like I was a child, and left the room. Within minutes she and her friends were gone. The house was silent. But in that silence a thought grew. She had told me, "We're not married. You don't get a say." Fine. If I didn't have a say in her life, then she didn't have a say in mine either. And that thought sparked a plan. I walked next door to see my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson. She's 78, a widow, but sharper and more energetic than people half her age. Her garden is famous in the neighborhood. Her roses win awards every year. But more importantly, she notices everything. Cameras on every corner of her house. Nothing escapes her eyes. I brought her a pie I'd baked earlier. We sat on her porch, talked about the weather, the squirrels in her yard. And then I told her everything, Me's words, her laughter, the way she treated the house like it belonged to her. Mrs. Thompson gasped, smacked her hand against her knee. "The nerve of that girl. Don't worry, Michael. We'll show her. What do you want me to say when she comes back?" I gave her a short script. She smiled slyly, eyes twinkling. "Oh, I can do better than that," she said. And I believed her. That night I didn't sleep. I packed Mia's things. But I didn't just throw them into boxes. I organized everything. Everyday clothes in one box. Expensive dresses she wore without me in another. A third box labeled sparkly outfits that shed glitter everywhere. Shoes went into a box labeled heels. As for her endless mountain of cosmetics and creams, I packed those into bins labeled Magic of Beauty. By morning, not a trace of me remained in the house. I rented a truck, drove everything to a storage unit, and paid for a month in advance. Generous, I thought to myself, considering we're not married, and I supposedly have no rights. The house finally felt like mine again. But I wasn't done. I got rid of her beige rugs and throw pillows. I sold the old couch and bought a big leather recliner sofa with cup holders. Instead of a coffee table, I set up an old arcade machine I found on eBay. And then I made my favorite move. I drove to the local animal shelter, Sunny Paws, and came home with a Saint Bernard puppy. Huge, clumsy, and perfect. I named him Max. That night, Max sprawled across the new couch, snoring so loudly it rattled the room. I sat beside him, drinking a beer straight from the bottle, watching him sleep. For the first time in months, I felt free. But deep down, I knew the real drama would begin when Mick came back. Sunday evening was unusually quiet. I sat on my new leather couch. Max stretched out beside me with one giant paw across my leg. I wasn't watching TV, the screen was black. I was just waiting. Waiting for me to come back. The locks had already been changed. Her old key wouldn't work. I'd left the lights on inside, just so she'd know I was home. Around 9, I heard footsteps on the porch, sharp, quick clicks of heels. Then the doorbell rang. Once. Twice. "Michael." Mia's voice rang through the door, annoyed, demanding. "Open the door." I stayed still, stroking Max's fur. He lifted his head, gave a low growl, then flopped back down. The handle rattled. I heard the sound of metal scraping. She was trying her key. The deadbolt didn't budge. She tried again, and again, then slammed her fist against the door. "Are you kidding me? What the hell is this?" she yelled. My phone lit up. Her name flashed across the screen. Call after call. I pressed decline each time. "Michael," she screamed, voice breaking with rage. "Open this damn door right now. You've lost your mind." Still, I said nothing. After several minutes of pounding, another porch light flicked on next door. The door creaked open, and out stepped Mrs. Thompson, wrapped in her bathrobe, holding a watering can as if she'd just been tending her roses. "Oh, Mia, is that you?" she called sweetly. Mia spun around, face flush. "Yes, it's me. My key won't work. He changed the locks." Mrs. Thompson tilted her head, feigning surprise. "Really? Well, that's strange. Michael's been home all weekend. He told me he finally felt free, said he was happier than ever." Mia froze. "Free? Oh yes," Mrs. Thompson went on, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. "He told me, since you two aren't married, and you said he doesn't have any rights over you, well, he realized you don't have any rights over him either. He changed everything in the house, and he even adopted the sweetest dog, the big one, his new best friend." Mia's jaw dropped. She whipped around and peered into the window. There I was, sitting calmly with Max stretched out on the couch. "A dog?" she muttered, almost in disbelief. "That's right," Mrs. Thompson said cheerfully. "A loyal friend who doesn't argue or tell him where he can't go." Mia slammed her palm against the glass. "Michael, what the hell are you doing? Open this door, we need to talk." I met her eyes through the window. Calm. Silent. Max lifted his head, gave another rumbling growl, then rested his chin back down. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't calls, it was messages pouring in rapid fire. "You're insane. They open the door right now. If you don't, I'm calling the cops. You can't throw me out. I lived here." I let them stack up, then sent her one single text. "You told me we're not married, that I don't have a say. You were right. Your things are safe. Storage unit, Oak Street, box #24, code 4321, paid for 1 month. Good luck." Then I blocked her number. From the window, I saw her read it. Her face twisted with rage. She screamed something I couldn't hear through the glass, then hurled her phone into the yard. 10 minutes later, Rachel's car pulled up. She jumped out, helped me grab her bags, and drove her away. The house was silent again. For a moment I thought it was over, but I should have known better. The next morning my feed was flooded with posts from Mia. Her Instagram was filled with selfies, captions like, "Never let a man control you. I escaped a toxic relationship. He betrayed me, but I'm stronger than ever." The Sirens, of course, chimed in, posting dramatic stories with sad music, comments like, "You deserve better, girl." I didn't respond. Not a word. I just let them build their little stage show. But a few days later I made my own move. I posted 3 photos. The first, my living room a month ago. Beige couch, boring throw pillows, generic rugs. Caption, before. The second, the living room now, sleek leather recliner couch, arcade machine glowing in the corner. Max sprawled across the rug. Caption, after. The third, a selfie of me and Max, both smiling. Caption, since we're not married, I'm free. Found a best friend who never argues about my choices. The post spread fast. Friends shared it, liked it, commented. People who had first pitied me started to rethink things. Suddenly her narrative didn't look so false. That night, for the first time, I felt like the tide was turning. But deep down, I knew Mia wouldn't give up that easily, and the real fight was just getting started. I thought the worst had passed once Mia sped off with Rachel. For a couple of days, the house felt peaceful in a way it hadn't for months. Max and I fell into a rhythm: morning walks, quiet work hours, simple dinners. I slept better. I convinced myself the storm had moved on. Then a thick white envelope landed in my mailbox. It was a formal letter from a law office I didn't recognize. The language was stiff and dramatic: a wrongful eviction, a loss of housing, emotional distress, and the demand that I immediately grant access to the residence and compensate Mia for a harm suffered. There was a line that actually made me laugh out loud. Our client has been left without a safe place to live and is enduring significant hardship. I took a picture of the letter and texted my friend David. He's a lawyer I've known since high school. He called within minutes. "Read it to me," he said. I did. David sighed. "Okay, here's the deal. The lease is in your name only. She wasn't a tenant of record. Legally she was a guest. You provided a storage unit and gave her notice of where her stuff is. You didn't toss her belongings on the lawn. You secured them. That's actually more courteous than required. There is no basis for unlawful eviction here. So what do? Nothing rash. Save everything. If they want to push it, we'll respond. But honestly, it reads like a scare letter." I felt my shoulders drop an inch. "Thanks, dear Michael," he added, voice turning serious. "Whatever you do, don't engage with her directly if she keeps threatening you. Keep it all documented." I promised I would. That afternoon, my social media lit up again. Mia had gone live. She cried on camera, talked about being cast out and finding the strength to rebuild. Her followers flooded the chat with heart emojis and comments like, "Stay strong, Queen." Sirens rallied in the comments, amplifying every half-truth into legend. I closed the app and went back to refilling Max's water bowl. Let them have their theatre. Real life happens off stage. 2 days later, the theatre showed up at my door in a different costume, mail I never signed up for. I got an email claiming I owed back rent, fake. Then a notice about noise complaints, also fake. The formatting it did give away. Another email implied my landlord had concerns about my behavior, but it came from a Gmail address with a random string of numbers. Amateur hour. I forwarded the messages to David and my actual landlord. My landlord wrote back a single confused sentence: "Everything's fine on our end." David's reply was longer: "Save them, these are clumsy forgeries. If this escalates, we'll add it to a harassment/cyberstalking pattern." It was unpleasant, but manageable. Annoying, not dangerous. I poured coffee, sat with Max, and told myself this was just another attempt to shake me. That evening, I stepped out to take Max for a quick walk around the block. The air was cool, the sky a dusty blue. We were gone 10 minutes. When we came back, Max's nose darted to something near the porch, an oddly perfect square of raw meat sitting a few inches from the step, like a treat. "Leave it," I said instinctively, tightening the leash. He hesitated. His tail slowed. I knelt, pulled him back, and looked closer. Nothing was visibly wrong, but something about the smell made my skin prickle chemical, bitter, not right. I grabbed a plastic bag, scooped the meat, and sealed it. Then I put Max inside and drove the bag to the emergency vet clinic. The tech at the front desk raised an eyebrow when I told her I wanted it checked. It could be nothing, I said. But it could be something. The vet came out 10 minutes later. We didn't do a full lab panel, she said carefully, but there are crushed tablets embedded in the meat, not a lethal dose at a glance. But in that dog's size, even a few could cause serious issues: sedation, loss of balance. It's good you caught it. Something icy slid down my spine. Thank you, to be careful, and watch him closely tonight. On the drive home, Max's head rested against the window, oblivious. I wasn't oblivious. Back on my porch, I double-checked the lawn, the bushes, the base of the mailbox. Nothing else looked out of place, but I felt watched. I installed 2 more cameras that night, one under the eaves facing the lawn, another beside the back door. Then I texted Mrs. Thompson, "Heads up, someone left tainted meat by my porch. Please keep an eye out." Her reply was instantaneous. "I am so sorry, Michael. I'll be watching. I'm charging my porch cam right now." For the first time since me moved out, the house didn't feel like a home. It felt like a perimeter. The next morning, someone knocked on my door with a theatrical series of raps. It was Sarah. Not the flippant, sarcastic Sarah. This version wore no makeup, no armor, just a grey hoodie and shadows under her eyes. "I know you're not excited to see me," she said, voice raw, "but I needed to talk." We stood in the doorway for a silent heartbeat. I stepped aside. "Come in." She hovered at the edge of the kitchen, hands gripping the back of a chair. "I'm not here to defend Mia," she said. "Not anymore. I could handle the drama, but this has gotten ugly." I waited. She's spiraling. The posts, the lives, the comments she's feeding off it. Last night she said you ruined her life and she's going to ruin yours back. She's pushing Kelly and Rachel to help her get proof you're a monster. To get proof? I asked. "What does that even mean?" Sarah swallowed. "It means invent it if you don't have it. Fake notices, fake screenshots, maybe worse. Kelly isn't thinking straight. Rachel's backing away. She looked at the floor. "I'm backing away too." I nodded, absorbing it. "Thanks for telling me." She nodded back, a strange mix of shame and relief in her face. "I deserve that kitchen laugh as much as anyone," she said quietly. "I'm sorry for that. I heard the laughter through a phone," I said. "Believe me, I know how loud it was." A brittle smile ghosted across her face. "One more thing." She pulled out her phone. "You might get a call. A guy named Nick. He's loosely connected. If he calls, he's not a friend. Thanks for the heads up." Sarah left with a small wave. When the door clicked shut, the house felt bigger and emptier. Max nudged my leg, huge head pressing into my thigh. I scratched behind his ears and tried to count my breaths. I made coffee. Called David. Told him everything. He ran through a checklist, document, date stamp, back up the footage, save all messages, do not respond in anger. He sounded like a professor and a friend at the same time. "Michael, you're doing this right," he said at the end. "Keep doing it right." I hung up and went to the porch to clear my head. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice, thick, lazy, with the confidence of someone who's used to being listened to. "You, Michael, the who's asking? It doesn't matter. I'm calling because you've made life hard for someone who didn't deserve it. That was a mistake." I looked at Max, whose ears were perked, his eyes on me. "If you're doing this on Mia's behalf, you can tell her this. The law applies the same way to everyone." He chuckled. "Cute. Here's what really applies. You're going to make this right. You're going to pay for the trouble you caused, or you're going to have a lot more trouble." I kept my voice flat. "Whatever you try, blackmail, lies, or stepping on my property, it's going to be captured on camera. Every attempt, every message, every visit is recorded and saved." Silence. Then a click. I saved the number, labeled it Nick, forwarded it to David with a note. He replied, "Good, keep it. If he calls again, don't engage. If he escalates, call the police. Paper trails matter." That afternoon, I re-watched the camera feeds like a person checking windows in a hurricane. It felt a little ridiculous, but also necessary. I rearranged 2 motion alerts, angled a lens to catch the sidewalk, and replaced a dying porch light bulb. By dusk, I felt stretched thin and wired. Mrs. Thompson texted, just saw a silver sedan cruise by twice slowly, could be nothing, but I'm watching. I thanked her. Then I sat on the floor with Max and held his giant head in my lap, listening to his slow, rhythmic breathing. Around then, something shifted in me. Fear had been on a low simmer since the meat incident. But now, under the fear, I felt something steadier take root resolve. I wasn't going to live in a panic. I had a plan. I had help. And I had more evidence than most people bring to a courtroom. Still, some nights demand honesty. So here's mine. I was tired. I was angry. I was hurt. I wanted my simple, boring life back. Halfway through a story is a strange place to ask a question, but I'll ask anyway. What would you do if you were me? Would you confront every lie publicly? Would you engage a lawyer and keep building the case? Or would you block everything, ignore it, and hope she gets bored and moves on? I went with the second option. Quiet, meticulous, boring, but effective. Because while my life streamed 100 versions of the truth, I was stacking facts like bricks. 2 nights later, a delivery truck pulled up with a package I hadn't ordered. Inside, a cheap door camera and a note that read "You're being watched." The irony almost made me laugh. My footage could probably be used to make a documentary at this point. I logged it, photographed it, saved the box, filed it away. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number going to the storage. Code doesn't work, fix it now. I didn't reply. I called the storage office instead. The manager checked the system and said, "Come as a person reading a grocery list. Code is active. The unit is paid through the end of the month. If the code doesn't work, the person using it is entering it wrong or it doesn't have authorization. Has anyone tried today?" He put me on hold, then returned. "Someone came by, yes, no access without a valid code." I thanked him, hung up, and looked at Max, who gazed back with heavy-lidded patience. "Buddy," I said, "we are living in a soap opera." He thumped his tail once, as if to say, "As long as dinner is on time." That night, Rachel messaged me from an account I didn't recognize. "I need you to know I'm out," she wrote. I told her I won't be part of this anymore. She's mad. She'll get worse before she stops. Thanks for telling me, I replied. "Be safe. Don't worry about me," she wrote back. "Worry about you." When I finally went to bed, the house didn't feel like a perimeter anymore. It felt like a fortress. Not because I'd turned it into a bunker, but because I'd decided something important. I would protect my peace the same way I protected my front door by locking what needed to be locked, lighting what needed to be lit, and recording what needed to be recorded. I slept deeper that night. The next day, May pivoted to a new script. She posted a carousel of old photos of our smiles on a beach, a birthday dinner, a blurry selfie on my couch, and captioned it, "He changed overnight." Comments rolled in like waves. "Men are trash. He deserved better. He always looked controlling." It should have bothered me more than it did. Instead, I felt a dull, distant ache and then nothing. Maybe numbness is a survival tactic. Maybe it's acceptance. By evening, I had done something practical that made me feel better. I printed a binder divider for each category: housing, social media, threats, forged notices, storage, dog incident, and slotted every screenshot and email and letter into place. The binder looked absurdly neat, like I was organizing recipes. But it grounded me. Around 9, as the sky turned the color of a bruise, my phone lit up with another unknown call. I let it ring out. A minute later, a voicemail landed. The same man's voice. "TikTok, hero. You think you're safe behind those cameras. You're not. Make it right." I saved it. Sent it to David. He sent back a single line. "You're doing everything right." I believed him. But a question still ticked in the back of my mind. How far would they go? I got my answer sooner than I wanted. Not that night. Not the next morning. But soon. And when it came, it didn't arrive as a post, or a letter, or a voicemail. It arrived on soft soles, after midnight, with a whisper against the kitchen window and the unlucky glare of a motion-activated floodlight. 2 nights after the pause and read scare, I was just starting to feel like maybe the worst had passed. That's when the doorbell rang again, and this time it wasn't Mia or one of her friends. It was the police. 2 officers stood on my porch, flashlights clipped to their vests. "Sir, we received a call," one said. "Report of yelling, a woman screaming inside your residence." My chest tightened. A woman, there's no one here but me and my dog. Max looked up from the couch behind me, yawning, proving the point. The officers glanced around, professional but skeptical. Mind if we check? Of course, I said. I showed them the kitchen, the living room, the empty guest room. Then I pulled up the last hour of camera footage on my phone, me washing dishes, Max snoring, the TV muted. Not a single sign of another person. They looked at each other. The younger one said, "Sorry to bother you, sir. False calls happen." The older one gave me a pointed look. "If this becomes a pattern, file a report. False reporting is a crime." When they left, I sat on the couch in the dark. The silence pressed in heavier than before. Mia wasn't just twisting the truth online anymore, she was trying to weaponize the system against me. The very next morning, Sarah came back. The same Sarah who had once laughed the loudest when Mia mocked me over speakerphone. This version looked worn out, like she hadn't slept. "Michael, I can't stay long," she said at the door. "But I need to warn you, she's planning something worse." I let her in. She stayed standing, wringing her hands. "She's talking about breaking in, planting jewelry or something, then calling the cops and saying you stole it." Rachel refused. "Kelly, she might go along. I couldn't sit back and let that happen." My jaw clenched. "You're serious?" Sarah pulled out her phone and played a voice memo. It was Mia's voice, calm and cold. "If he won't let me in, we'll use the window. Thompson's AC is too loud. She won't hear. Then I find my bracelet, post it online, call the cops. Let him explain that." I stared at the phone until the words ended. Sarah tucked it away, shame written all over her face. "Thank you," I said finally. She gave me a small nod, then handed me something else, a thin metal rod wrapped in tape. I found this in her bag, an actual lockpick. She wasn't bluffing. That night, I installed another floodlight by the back window and triple-checked every lock. Just after midnight, Max lifted his head and growled. My phone buzzed with a motion alert. 2 figures on the side yard. Mia and Kelly. The floodlight snapped on, bathing them in white. They froze, then scrambled toward the kitchen window. "Faster," Mia hissed. "Hand me the bar." I dialed 911, voice low and steady. 2 people attempting to break into my house. Address is. I stayed on the line as the dispatcher assured me help was coming. Through the glass, I heard the scuffle, Kelly fumbling, me cursing. Then sirens. Red and blue strobes swept across the lawn. They bolted for the fence. Kelly tripped, her bag spilling open lip gloss, keys, and a small white pill bottle rolling into the grass. Mia hesitated for half a second, then abandoned her and sprinted into the dark. The officers tackled Kelly by the gate. I opened my door, showed them the footage streaming from my phone. One officer picked up the pill bottle, shook it, sniffed it. "What do we have here?" Kelly's face crumpled. "It's not mine, it's Mia's. She said it was just to keep the dog quiet." The officer bagged the evidence. "We'll sort it out at the station." At 3 a.m, I sat on the steps, Max pressed against my side. Mrs. Thompson appeared with her flashlight, bathrobe flapping. "I saw the whole thing," she said breathlessly. "She left her friend behind." I nodded, too tired to answer. By dawn, David had the report, the footage, the audio, the pills all lined up like ammunition. "Michael, this is more than enough for a restraining order," he said. Later that week, the harassment escalated again. A man's voice called me from a block number. "You think you're clever, setting traps for her friends. You want this to stop. Make it right." I answered calmly, "What you don't understand is this: whatever you try, whether it's blackmail, lies, or breaking in, it all ends up on video. Every move, every word, recorded." Click. The line went dead. And then Mia went for her most desperate play yet. I was in the park with Max when Rachel, yes, the quieter of the sirens, ran up to me, breathless. "I'm done covering for her," she blurted. "She's about to go online and announce she's pregnant. She wants to say you threw out a pregnant woman." My stomach dropped. "She's not, she isn't," Rachel cut in. "I saw her messages. She begged a friend to get her a fake test. Said it was just for the camera. I have screenshots. I'll send them." That night Mia went live. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she held up a blurry photo of a test stick. "I'm pregnant," she whispered to thousands of viewers. And he knew. He still threw me out. Comments poured in, "A monster. She's so strong. How could he?" But an hour later, Sarah sent me the audio, Mia's own voice, sharp and impatient. I need a test with 2 lines today. I don't care how, people will believe it. I saved it, sent it straight to David. His reply, perfect, this destroys her credibility. 2 nights later, smoke curled under my front door. I grabbed the extinguisher and yanked the door open. Someone had shoved burning papers into the mailbox slot. I sprayed foam until the embers died. The camera caught a hooded figure sprinting into a silver sedan. Mrs. Thompson, bless her, had even scribbled down half the plate number. The police added arson attempt to the pile. By then, the binder on my desk was thick with evidence. Calls, screenshots, videos, eyewitness accounts. Piece by piece, her story was crumbling. But I also knew this wasn't just about her story anymore. It was about mine. About proving to her followers, maybe even to myself, that I wasn't the villain she tried to paint. And the place to do that would be in court. The morning of the hearing was grey and cold. I dropped Max off with Mrs. Thompson before heading downtown. She hugged the leash close, patted his head, and said, "Don't you worry, Michael, you brave boy will be right here when you get back." Her calm steadiness gave me strength, but my stomach still churned as I walked into the courthouse, binder of evidence tucked under my arm. The courtroom was small, almost plain. David sat beside me, flipping through notes with calm precision. Across the aisle, Mia entered on sharp heels. She wore a modest grey dress and a scarf, her makeup pale, eyes watery. The performance had already begun. She didn't look at me. Not once. The judge entered, and the hearing began. Mia's attorney spoke first, voice strong and dramatic. My client lived with Mr. Johnson for 8 months. She contributed to the household, was treated as a partner, and then, without cause, she was suddenly locked out, left without her belongings, without shelter. Worse, she is pregnant. He knew this and still abandoned her. I clenched my fist under the table. David didn't flinch. When it was our turn, David rose and spoke evenly. "Your Honour, the lease is in Mr. Johnson's name alone. MS. Williams had no legal tenancy. Mr. Johnson went above and beyond securing her belongings in a storage unit and paying the rent for a month. As for the claims of pregnancy, he held up a small recorder. We have audio of MS. Williams requesting a falsified test from a friend, stating, quote, 'People will believe it.' He pressed play. Mia's voice filled the room. I need a test with 2 lines today. Doesn't matter how, people will believe it." The courtroom went silent. The judge's brow furrowed. "MS. Williams, is this your voice?" Mia stammered. "That it's taken out of context," David continued. "We also have video footage of MS. Williams attempting to break into the residence with an accomplice. We have a police report documenting a bottle of sedatives found at the scene, which her accomplice testified she supplied. We have a neighbor's statement confirming MS. Williams attempted arson at the property, and here he opened the binder like a magician, revealing his finale. Are copies of forged notices and harassing messages sent to Mr. Johnson, all traced back to accounts connected to MS. Williams or her associates." Mia's attorney shifted uncomfortably. "Your Honour, my client..." The judge cut him off. "That will be enough." The decision came swiftly. The temporary restraining order became permanent. Mia was barred from contacting me or approaching my home within 500 feet. Her claims were dismissed. The police were instructed to investigate her actions, further trespassing, harassment, possible animal endangerment, even attempted arson. Gavel struck. Case closed. Outside the courthouse, David clapped me on the shoulder. "You handled this exactly right. Quiet, careful, by the book. That's why you won." I exhaled, a breath I felt like I'd been holding for months. "Thanks, David. And now go home to your dog," he said with a rare smile. When I returned, Max nearly knocked me over in excitement. Mrs. Thompson laughed from her porch. "I told you he'd be waiting." I dropped to my knees, wrapping my arms around his massive neck. For the first time in months, I felt truly safe. Life slowly settled into something normal again. I worked, walked Max, read books in the quiet house that finally felt like mine. Miss still posted occasionally, but her followers had grown skeptical. Comments on her dramatic stories turned into questions. What about the audio? What about the police report? Her spotlight dimmed, then flickered out. Sarah and Rachel cut ties with her entirely. Kelly faced her own consequences but kept her distance. The Sirens dissolved, the chorus silenced. And May? I have my peace back. I often think about the night in my kitchen when Mia laughed and told me, "We're not married, you don't get to say." Back then, it felt like a knife. But now I realize she was right, in a way. I don't get a say in how someone else chooses to live. But I do get a say in how I live. And I chose freedom. Tonight, as I sit on my leather couch, Max sprawled across half of it, snoring like a chainsaw, I look around at the quiet house. My arcade machine hums faintly in the corner, a cold beer sweats on the table, and outside the windows, nothing but stillness. It isn't flash. It isn't glamorous. But it's mine. And now I'll leave you with this question: if you were in my place faced with lies, break-ins, threats, and public humiliation, what would you have done? Fought back with evidence and patience? Or walked away, let it all burn out on its own? Tell me, I want to know. That's the end of today's story. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you'll always catch the latest stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. I love reading what you think. And if you'd like more, there's a full playlist waiting in the description section of this video. New real stories are coming soon, and I'd love to share them with you. And I hopefully see you next time.